Now it's the game of the cripples.
Right, when we sat here several weeks ago speculating as to whether or not these teams would be undefeated on November 12th, don't have to worry about that. But let's not write off the 49ers. They still have a premier defense. It can set up scores. It can do everything a good defense does. And I think that they're going to go into that game with a tremendous attitude advantage. And I think
the problem that they've got, and I had this conversation with Peter King just this week, and he called the San Francisco 49ers the lab rats of the NFL's salary cap, because you can't re-sign, you have no depth anymore, you can't re-sign your second-line players. They go to other teams. So when your stars get hurt, now you're plugging in with guys who wouldn't have made your team 2 and 3 years ago.
And a guy who was so significant to them last year was William Floyd, just sort of a man-child, a he-man, and he gave them a spirit on offense that they hadn't had. They weren't afraid of Dallas anymore. And I hate to say this for the 49ers' sake, but Deion Sanders was the catalyst last year on defense. He gave them a new swagger that they didn't have before, so they're missing those two sort of lightning rod players.
And don't forget, when you're talking about the salary cap, let's throw in expansion. As it does in all sports, it has a very direct effect on every team. And certainly football is no exception.
Ken Norton was a big part of Dallas's Super Bowl victories. How big is he with San Francisco?
Listen, it's laughable for people to say that the 49ers might miss the playoffs right now. They have the best front seven on defense in the league right now, and I never thought I would say this here on national television, but I wasn't a big Ken Norton Jr. fan when he was in Dallas, and I think he was the MVP on defense in the National Football League for the first half of the year. They've had trouble with Marquez Pope at the corner, but they've sort of shielded him with some creative blitzing. I think they're very good on defense, and they still have some guy named Young and some guy named Rice on offense.
You know,
right?
I think it says something that people spend a lot of time, and we do, and legitimately so, still talking after all these years about Dallas and San Francisco. The other league, you know, the AFC, they're supposed to have all these great teams. New England's supposed to be a Super Bowl team, Pittsburgh, Miami, San Diego, and there's no talk. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
A year ago, the big game in the AFC was San Diego against Miami. They play again today. Now, are either of those teams contenders, or is the loser out?
By the way, the gap has widened to me between the NFC and the AFC this year, but I still love Dan Marino. When you have Dan Marino, I know they don't have much running game. I still don't have a lot of respect for their defense. They're still the best, to me, the most dangerous team with that guy quarterback.
I'm telling you right now, if you make the playoffs in the AFC, you have a very good chance of getting to the Super Bowl. Nobody, I mean, with all due respect to Kansas City, nobody believes that they're a super team or anything like that. I agree with Skip about the gap. I mean, just make it into the playoffs in AFC and take your chances.
With all due respect to the Oakland Raiders right now, with Hostetler and Harvey Williams as your two go-to guys, your two stars, those are not superstar people. Those are not Aikmans and Youngs and Jerry Rices that they're dealing with there in Oakland.
So when you say the gap is greater now, you mean the gap between those top two teams in the NFC?
Well, San Francisco, Dallas, and I'll throw Chicago in there, too. I think Chicago would be the best team in the AFC right now.
Well, they knock each other off all the time. I mean, San Diego, you've been around all the Patriot teams. Yeah. San Diego is on the verge, if they don't win this game, of becoming like that 1985 Patriot team that makes a Super Bowl and disappears, like falls off the table in 2 years. All the teams that are supposed to challenge, Pittsburgh, New England, it just not happening.
And you talked earlier about the injuries. Here's the Patriots, a prime example of the modern reality. Three best players are Drew Bledsoe, Ben Coates, and Vincent Brown. Each of them were hurt early in the year. There was no chance of replacing them. It started the spiral that they're in now.
Tony, are you about to get another football team in the Washington area?
Well, the talk is that Baltimore is going to get the Cleveland Browns, which just happened overnight and is, to me, mind-blowing that a team like Cleveland, that you've associated with greatness for all those years, would actually move and move
to the Dogs
to
come with them?
I guess that, well, they get crated. I don't know if they actually are allowed to scream and yell in what would be a new stadium. I think this talks about, you mentioned Bledsoe, and also Deion Sanders. Owners have to find places to get revenue to pay these incredible salaries, and the sweetheart deal with the Baltimore Stadium will give them the money.
Let's switch to college football. If the Bears are a slight surprise in the NFL, their neighbors at Northwestern are
This is the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen in college football. This academic-based institution had all these ugly duckling signees. Yeah, well, really, all these ugly duckling signees of, what, 5 years ago? And suddenly, all of them became very good. This is a very good team. This is not the Oregon Ducks of last year who sort of overachieved and were overcoached along the way. This is a dominant, I watched them again yesterday. They have a dominant offensive line, a dominant front seven on defense. I think they're a good football team.
The biggest juxtapositions and the biggest turnaround and shock since Princeton got to the 1965 Final Four. I mean, you people have to just think back as to how recently Northwestern was supposed to be, it was the Big Nine, and a team has no business being in the league. And they are good. Darnell Autry is a wonderfully entertaining and effective running back.
And only people who go to Northwestern would translate the word juxtaposition. You know, I mean, at my newspaper, there are 7 full-time writers who went to Northwestern. People come to Washington Post dressed in purple now. It's making me sick.
But if Ohio State stumbles against Michigan and Northwestern wins the Rose Bowl, that makes Miami of Ohio the national champion.
Yeah.
Well said.
We'll take a break. Coming up next, the NBA season starts, and the Bulls have Michael for the full season and Dennis for who knows how long.
That would be the Miami without the fatigues.